Generals gathered in their masses, just like witches at black masses. Evil minds that plot destruction, sorcerer of death's construction. In the fields of bodies burning, as the war machine keeps turning. Death and hatred to mankind, poisoning their brainwashed minds. Oh Lord, yeah.
Volodymyr Zelensky takes a shot at the West, and then he goes and dons the uniform of his people. So we'll talk just a bit about what's going on with that and what that means for that. I'm going to be hopeful and say we're going to cover other stuff here, but I'm pretty positive that we're just going to talk about Ukraine all day, but we will see what's happening with that. Ukraine asked Turkey to shut down the Black Sea waterways to Russian ships, so they can't have their official warm water port. So we'll go over that. We'll even look at some maps with that as well. Another country in the world has out-protested anyway the U.S. So we'll talk just a bit about what's happening in Russia right now. And if we can get outside of the Ukraine, Ghislaine Maxwell's trial, the juror may have lied on the questionnaire, but the judge does not grant a new trial. It is going to be all this and more, plus live chat today. So make sure if it is sufficiently stupid, spicy, bigoted, or otherwise, it might get read on the air because it'll raise the intellectual of this program. So make sure that if you're lurking, you get some of those fun, spicy messages in there as we go through what it is that we're talking about, and we will see what's happening right after this. You're just mad you can't date me. I am Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary.
And as God has struck the hour, day of judgment, God is calling. On the knees, the war pigs crawling, begging mercies for the sins. Satan laughing spreads his wings. Oh Lord, yeah.
Didn't set the Instagram feed up. Hold on, I thought it was set up, but I guess it wasn't. So let's get that corrected here. All right, let's get into it here. we gotta fire the producer because, hey, he keeps screwing things up like this. But we gotta get into it as well because we have got a buttload of news to get to today here. So, everybody strap yourselves in. We're gonna talk about the Ukraine and probably not a whole fuck of a lot else here. So, strap yourselves in for contemporary. It is time for us to come back and talk a bit about what's going on over in the other side of the world that the news media desperately wants you to focus on as they figure out how they're going to continue to keep you being fucked by the upper 1%, because that's pretty much what they do. But before we get started, a couple announcements to talk about here, a couple announcements to see on that, but let's get into it here over on Contemporary. Before we get started, head on over, check out turnsofpagesproductions.com. The start page for turnsofpagesproductions.com is up, out, and ready. So, if you guys want to go check that out and figure out what's going on there. Oh, by the way, I look back at the Give, Send, Go, and we'll talk about that in just a second. And my government name is back on there too, so I'm going to reach out to them at this point. I'm gonna reach out and say, hey, what the fuck? Can I get at least the first name off of there? If you guys really want to know my last name, it'll come out eventually. But I want to at least get my first name off of there because, you know, well, reasons. But anyway, yeah, go check out turnsofpagesproductions.com. See what it is we have there, and also go check out The Porch Boys, Daily Ignoramus, Breakdown with Birkenhoff, R-Rated Conservative, and the new upcoming project with Britt and Sean Hickman. It's going to be a great time. We carry great creators, so go and give that a check out there. Looking in at the fundraiser, yep, we'll scroll there because there is the government name right there. So the Give, Send, Go hasn't been openly shared out just yet. But at some point here, I'm going to reach out to them, see if I can't get that dropped down to at least my first initial and middle name, if possible. Like it was yesterday, by the way. And we'll see what's happening there. But I do want to get this shared out here because we've already got one donation, 20 bucks into this here, to let's get this started. And it's got the little heart on there as well because, yeah, thank you very, very much for helping us, Quest Fanning, helping us get started here. And we'll see if we can get some more people in there. Once again, we will get it shared out once I can figure out how to get certain details up off the front page. But thank you guys for supporting in terms of pagesproductions.com. We do hope to see more coming up in the near future. So with that, that's what we see coming out of that. And before we also get started into finance, go check out the Rumble page. We'll get that linked up in the chat for you guys. Thank you guys who have been watching on Rumble already here. Looks like we're starting to see some views. We're starting to get some traction over here. So that is pretty cool. We'll see if we can't get some... I feel like if we get the views that we've been getting over on the other platforms, we'll start getting some monetization here because you're monetized right out of the gate over on Rumble just like you are on DLive. So, and with YouTube, I went off and turned the monetization off because... well, that was me giving the finger to them. I don't want you running ads on my stuff because, well, fuck you. I don't want you making money off me, and I don't want your blood money off of that. It would be nice to make a career as a YouTuber, but, you know, at what point do you have to trade your soul in for it? Anyway, go check out rumble.com. Link is in the chat, except for the Twitch chat. Apparently it won't take that, but I'll get the link out there because that one doesn't show my government name. I'll get the link out there. We'll get it on the Twitter. It is in the Discord already, which you will be seeing scrolling by you as we go here. Let's get into the finance here because we have got a buttload of stuff to get to today. And I still have to come back and say thank you to everybody who chatted in the live chat. We'll get some periodic reminders throughout the program too to make sure that if you're lurking, you chat because I want to see what it is you guys have to say. And also to say thank you for this. By the way, I noticed you guys have been sharing out a lot over here because yesterday with all the people, plus all the people on Wednesday, we got almost down to where we finished out the page. The more chats, the more people's names show up, and, well, the more people I have to thank. And eventually, I'm not going to be able to do this thank you on Friday. We'll go through and do the live chat on Friday still as much as we can, but eventually I'm not going to be able to do this thank you because there's just going to be so many names. Because you guys are so awesome with sharing this out and making sure that other people are coming in and joining us. Let's get into it. Starting with the Dow. The Dow miraculously somehow turned positive yesterday after dropping off at the beginning. And oh, steady climb, steady climb, steady climb. It was only 0.25% up, 92.07 points up, but somehow it miraculously throughout the day turned positive. I couldn't believe it because it dropped down almost 400 points throughout the day, but that's what we see coming off of that. Still up above 33,000, so that's what we see coming off of that. Let's grab one from on Bitcoin here. Let me get a refresh on that because that's last night's number. Your Bitcoin is at 39,592.80 or 28.80 rather. Wow, I can read this morning. So that had a fairly significant climb yesterday, up to 1,181.50 or 3.08% throughout the day yesterday. So a little bit of gain for you Bitcoiners out there. I still prefer to have my Shiba Inu, but I have a nickel or whatever it is now in Bitcoin. So hey, that nickel, maybe I'll be able to retire off the nickel that I put into there from the free Bitcoin that, what the hell was it, Coinbase gave me at the beginning. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see where that goes. Let's get a refresh and look at the scrap metal from last night. And it looks like things have moved a little bit. Copper on the average is down. Steel is up. Aluminum is down on the averages here. Looking in at the individual plays, copper is all in the red right now. Everywhere across the board, copper is in the red. On steel, that's a bit more mixed. BX steel, conduit steel, is down. Light iron is up. Number one steel is down. Cast is up. Rotors are up. Complete car is up. Shreddable steel is up. Stainless is down. Aluminum, also mixed. Siding is down. Aluminum copper fin is down. Aluminum radiators are down. Cans are up. Sheet aluminum is down. Rims are up. Electric motors are down. Ballasts are down. Lead is up. Car and truck batteries are down. Catalytic converters, your small foreign cat and your small GM cat are both up. Large foreign cat, regular domestic cat, and large GM cat are all three down. Compressors are down. Alternators are down. Carbide is up. On your computer plays, hard drives, power supplies, low-grade boards, PC tower are all down. Motherboards remain up. So that's what we see coming in off of that. Let's see what IBD has to say for that. From Investors Business Daily. Dow futures turn higher with Putin open to Ukraine talks. Russia invasion continues. From Ed Carson. Dow futures turned slightly higher Friday morning, erasing solid overnight losses along with S&P 500 futures and NASDAQ futures. Russian President Vladimir Putin is ready for talks with Ukraine, according to state-run media. If true, it's unclear what conditions Moscow has. There are reports that Ukraine's president is willing to declare his country non-aligned, especially ruling out NATO membership. I am not surprised, and we will talk just a bit about that going on here, which wasn't a likely prospect anyway. Meanwhile, Russian troops are driving on the capital, Kiev. The stock market rebounded powerfully Thursday from steep losses led by tech such as Palo Alto. The US and Europe announced tougher sanctions versus Russia for its sweeping Ukraine invasion, but the penalties were not severe as feared. The NASDAQ and S&P moved us back to the top. Get your edge in on the stock market. I've been archiving this for the last few days, so I haven't seen that for a while. The stock market rebounded powerfully Thursday from steep losses led by tech such as Palo Alto. The US and Europe announced tougher sanctions versus Russia for its sweeping Ukraine invasion, but the penalties were not severe as feared. That's because he didn't give a flying fuck. The NASDAQ and S&P raced up from strong gains on Thursday, with the Dow recovering to close slightly higher. This marks the start of the stock market rally attempt, but it's not a green light for investors. Palo Alto and other cybersecurity stocks raced higher, including Fortinet, Datadog, and ZS stock, but Zscaler plunged overnight after reporting earnings. Meanwhile, Microsoft rebounded 5.1% after undercutting the low of its base. Apple and Expedia both rallied off key support, with Apple closing up 1.5% and Expedia stock paring its losses to 2.5%. Microsoft remains below its 200-day line, while Apple stock is below its 50-day, so they aren't actionable, but Expedia is in a buy zone. Banks were among the biggest losers, with JP Morgan and Bank of America among the decliners. Sanctions versus Russia banks will have a ripple effect on financials around the world. Fears of slower economic growth and flattening yield curves, with the Federal Reserve about to begin rate hikes, weighed on everyone from Wall Street titans to JP Morgan to foreign banks and regional leaders. While JP Morgan stock and other financials rallied off intraday lows, the charts have seriously weakened in recent weeks. Gold, a safe haven, During the recent sell-off, reversed lower Thursday after surging 3% overnight. Newmount Mining, which narrowly beat early views Thursday, jumped to 70.37 shortly after the open. But Newmont Mining stock reversed to close down 2.2% to 66.72, briefly undercutting the 65.59 buy point. Microsoft stock and Expedia are on the IBD leaderboard. Microsoft and Fortinet are on the IBD long-term leaders. On your futures, Dow rose 0.1% versus fair value. After tumbling 1% or more at their lows, S&P 500 futures advanced 0.15%. The Nasdaq climbed 0.3%. The 10-year Treasury yield rose 3 basis points to 2%. Gold prices fell more than 1%. Crude oil prices slightly. There it is. No. There's something missing in that sentence. Crude oil prices slightly. That's the sentence right there. You're looking at the same thing I am. I have no idea. Remember, overnight action in Dow futures and elsewhere doesn't necessarily translate into actual trading in the next regular stock market session. So that's what we see off of there. Let's grab one from Market Insider, and then we are into the news. We are into the Ukraine only show. Possibly. We'll see what happens. Thanks for chatting, you guys. Keeping up more in there. We're going to have a lot of fun stuff to read at the end of the show. I see that chat window moving and moving and moving. Let's get into it here. Dow futures dropped 260 points after stunning rebound, while global stocks edge higher as Russia-Ukraine conflict roils markets. Excuse me. This is from late last night, by the way, so what we see from Investors Business Daily was from about 30 minutes ago, so that's the most recent. This is from Harry Robertson. U.S. stock futures fell Friday as uncertainty about the Russia-Ukraine conflict continued to grip investors a day after equity staged a remarkable comeback despite the outbreak of war. Dow futures were 260 points or 0.78% lower, while S&P futures had fallen 0.85% and NASDAQ futures were down 0.9%. And all three of them are up at this point. However, Asian and European stocks rebounded after sharp falls on Thursday as global volatility cooled somewhat, following a wild trading on the previous day. Oil rose slightly, with Brent crude trading around $100 a barrel. Prices shot up on Thursday as Russia, one of the world's biggest energy suppliers, invaded Ukraine before paring their gains later in the day. Russia's invasion of Ukraine, ordered by President Vladimir Putin, rocked financial markets around the world on Thursday as analysts and traders raced to gauge the likely impact on the global economy. European stock markets cratered, with the continent-wide Stoxx 600 falling 3.3%. Brent crude shot past the $100 mark for the first time in 7 years. And Russia's benchmark MOEX stock index plunged 33%. U.S. stocks initially opened deeply in the red as investors awaited the details of the White House sanctions against Russia. However, they later pulled off a stunning recovery honk honk, and the S&P 500 finished 1.5% higher after falling as much as 2.6%. Analysts pointed to the fact that sanctions left Russia's energy industry largely untouched, cooling the rise in oil prices and concerns about inflation. The fact that oil has stopped going parabolic higher helped turn the whole market around yesterday, Deutsche Bank's Jim Reed said. Oil prices edged higher on Friday, however, as Russian troops advanced on Ukrainian cities, including the capital of Kiev. Brent crude was up 1.07% to $100.14 a barrel, $100.14 a barrel, trading around a 7-year high, having hit $105.79 on Thursday before settling at $99.08. WTI crude was 0.67% higher at $93.40 a barrel, and also a 7-year high. So that's what we saw last night as they go, so we'll see what happens with this. Let's get into the big news of the day. So let's see what they're doing here, starting with the House Plant in Chief. That's the best place to start here. So this is most popular president in history. Reporter, do you think you may have underestimated Putin? Biden stares blankly, picks at his teeth. Let's watch.
Do you think you may have underestimated Putin?
Thank you. Time to move. Thank you.
And that is a person who is being controlled by people that are not him. That is a person who's being controlled by generals and lobbyists right now because he has no answer. And he's been told on numerous occasions that no, you don't take a question, especially one like that. Do you think you might have underestimated Putin? You don't take that question, Mr. Biden. You sit there. You ignore them. You turn your back and you walk away. Which is kind of what he did. And Zelensky's going to call him out for that in just a bit here. But yeah, that's what he has going on there. Well, not a whole lot. He has no answers. And a lot of his little simps out there came on, well, see, they weren't supposed to be asking questions. They're journalists. That's what they do. They're not supposed to be answering questions. They were being ushered out at the time. Which is weird, by the way, because he doesn't usually sit there and take the questions and ignore them. He typically gets ushered out of there as quickly as they possibly can get him away from the podium. But instead, we get this.
Underestimated Putin.
Thank you. Time to move. Thank you.
Do you think you may have underestimated Putin?
Thank you.
So, that's what we see coming off of that. Alright, let's grab one from Insider to start off with for the day. Zelensky addresses his country on the second morning of the Russian invasion. The fate of Ukraine depends only on Ukrainians, which is not a bad assessment for the situation that they're in. From Whelan Soon. In a Friday morning speech, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky rallied his countrymen to strengthen their resolve in fighting against the Russian forces invading their country, while making an appeal to Russians to continue protesting against the attack. Stop the enemy wherever you see it, he said to Ukrainians. The fate of Ukraine depends only on Ukrainians. No one but ourselves will control our lives. We are on our land. The truth is on our side. It will not be possible to destroy our character. Zelensky's speech is his second address since Putin authorized a full-scale attack on Ukraine early Thursday morning. In the hours that followed Putin's speech, explosions were seen and heard in cities around the Ukraine. Ukrainian officials have reported fighting on its borders with Russia, and dozens of casualties. The US and EU have pledged to impose sanctions on Russia in response. Zelensky said on Friday that these actions did not deter Russia, adding that it is up to Ukrainians to defend their country. This morning, we are defending our state alone, as we did yesterday, he said. The world's most powerful forces are watching from afar. Zelensky on Thursday mandated a general military mobilization across the country. Ukraine has also banned all male citizens 18 to 60 from leaving the country, according to CNN. His Friday speech came just hours after the missiles were launched in Kiev, the capital city of Ukraine. In his address, Zelensky compared Friday's bombardment to when Nazi Germany attacked Kiev in 1941. Why are both sides calling the other side Nazis, by the way? Tonight, they started bombing residential areas of the hero city of Kiev. It all reminds me of 1941, he said. Even as Zelensky appealed to Ukrainians to fight enemy forces, he also stressed the need for dialogue. Russia will still have to talk to us sooner or later, talk about how to end the fighting and stop this invasion. The sooner the conversation begins, the smaller Russia's losses will be, he said. And even though right now, as of this point from what we saw of our finance articles, it looks like this may actually be coming up to a close, and it looks like, hey, if at least not a proxy state, if not a full member, Ukraine will probably become a part of the Soviet Union once again in the very near future here. Russia's invasion sparked massive protests back home. Thousands gathered across several cities, chanting and holding signs to object to Russia's offensive in the Ukraine. The Russian government has warned that protesters may be arrested, with one report indicating that hundreds of protesters across multiple Russian cities have already been detained. Yeah, you don't really want to You don't really want to protest against the government in a totalitarian state. That's just not something you really want to do here. But that's what we see coming off of Zelensky from the first side of it. But looking at the Daily Wire, Zelensky appears to take a shot at Biden. The world's most powerful forces are watching from afar. From Ryan Saavedra. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky appeared to take a shot at Democrat President Joe Biden for not doing more to assist the Ukraine as it fought back in an invasion from Russia. This morning, we are defending our state alone. Like yesterday, the world's most powerful forces are watching from afar, he said. Did yesterday's sanctions convince Russia? We hear in our sky and see on our earth that this was not enough. No video, which is lame. Zelensky's comments come as Biden said on Thursday that no one expected these sanctions to prevent anything from happening. Zelensky added in part during the speech, "We are left alone in defense of our state. Who is ready to fight with us? Honestly, I do not see such. Who is ready to guarantee Ukraine's accession to NATO? Honestly, everyone is afraid. I tell all partners of state, now is an important moment. The fate of country is being decided. I ask, are you with us? The answer that they are with us, but they are not ready to take us to the alliance. Today, I ask the 27 leaders of Europe whether Ukraine will be in NATO. I ask directly. Everyone is afraid. They do not answer." Yeah, I'm not surprised. "We are not afraid of anything. We are not afraid to defend our state. We are not afraid of Russia. We are not afraid to talk to Russia. And we are not afraid to say everything about security and guarantees for our state. We're not afraid to talk about neutral status, and we are not in NATO now. But the main thing, what security guarantees will we have, and what specific countries will give them?" During the early morning hours on Thursday, Zelensky said that he would arm anyone who wanted to fight back against the Russians. "We will give in weapons to anyone who wants to defend country. Be ready to support Ukraine in the squares of our city," Zelensky said in a statement. "We will lift sanctions on all citizens of Ukraine who are ready to defend our country as part of territorial defense, with weapons in hand." That sounds a lot like pardons for anybody who wants to fight as a criminal for the country of Ukraine. Russia pressed deep into Ukraine late on Thursday and into Friday morning as the fight reached near the outskirts of the country's capital city of Kiev. Kiev was the target of numerous missile attacks throughout the night, which saw a fighter explode in the sky after getting hit. So, yeah, I mean, where's Zelensky wrong here, by the way? Because right at the beginning, right from everywhere, when they started lining troops up, that was all over U.S. mainstream news. I don't know what was going on in Europe, but I'm sure that they were feeling a little bit nervous about this as well. But this was all over U.S. mainstream news. Everywhere. "Oh, look, they're lining up. We need to go support the Ukraine." And, you know, what did we keep saying over on our side? Well, it sure sounds like we're getting ready to go to war. It sounds like they're going to start beating the war drum. Hey, it sounds like there might be a war coming over in the Ukraine at some point here. But when the invasion happened, we start hearing things like, "Oh, well, we're going to throw crippling economic sanctions, and we're going to shut this down, and we're going to shut that down." And, you know, the rhetoric changed in a week. Now, I'm not saying that we should have gone to war by any stretch of the imagination, but the people, especially the Biden babies out there, who were so eager, who were so ready to go over and defend the Ukraine because Biden told them that we needed to go in and defend Ukraine. I'm going to come back right off and say I was wrong twice. I was wrong. I did not think that Russia was going to invade Ukraine this early. I didn't see that happening. But furthermore, when they did, I was also thinking that, okay, the troops are getting ready to go because, well, with all the rhetoric that's been told to us across everywhere, like if you follow or watch any little Biden baby over on Twitter right now, well, probably not right now because they're starting to wake up to the stark fucking reality. Okay, let me take that back. In 4 hours at noon, when they all get up because they don't have jobs, they will start waking up to the stark reality that no, the West has turned Ukraine over to Russia. But if you listen to them, they were all ready, eager. Okay, let's go get troops in there. We have to defend Ukraine. Ukraine is a sovereign nation. They have sovereign borders, which that's a sovereign border that they care about. And we need to go back and defend them because the man with the bald head, that's only 36 on CNN, told me so. I know, I shouldn't be talking about bald head, about Stelter, because I'm not there, but I'm getting there. It could happen somewhere in the near future. I can say that. But those people, I mean, especially if they wanted to go up there and talk about this and talk about sending other people's children. Because a lot of these were trust funders, too. They're, college professors, trust fund babies that don't have to go to work. Yeah, they should have picked up armaments and gone over to Ukraine if it was so important to them. But you'll notice, they're ready to go. As soon as the news media tells them that they need to be ready to go. But they don't want to go themselves. They just want to send other people's kids over there. The Appalachian American kids that are living on a dirt floor with no shoes. The inner city black kids who have no prospects other than to go join the military. Those are the people they want to send over there, not necessarily themselves. But that's what we see coming off of that. Let's grab one from CBS. Oh, we got something breaking here. Ketanji Brown Jackson is Biden's Supreme Court pick. Let's notate that for Monday. Not the worst pick he could have done, by any stretch of the imagination. So we'll add that for Monday. Let's talk about this one here. Let's actually have a listen to what it is that they have to say real quick about what's going on with that. Biden on alarming developments in Ukraine, and then we'll read the article here because Blinken says Putin has his sights on countries beyond Ukraine because the war machine needs to keep going, and we need to continue to cast out Russia as the great evil. Let's have a listen to what they had to say.
Joining us now is Secretary of State Antony Blinken. Mr. Secretary, thank you for your time.
Good to be with you, Nora. Thanks.
Well, there were a number of alarming developments today. Do you believe that Ukraine's capital of Kyiv could soon fall to Russian forces?
Well, it's certainly under threat, and it could well be under siege. This is the opening salvo of a massive invasion, and we see this continuing and threatening Kyiv and threatening other major cities in Ukraine.
And where is Ukraine's President Zelensky, and how concerned are you about his safety right now?
To the best of my knowledge, President Zelensky remains in Ukraine at his post. And of course, we're concerned for the safety of all of our friends in Ukraine, government officials and others. And we're doing everything we can to stand with them, to support them. We're there for them, not only us, countries throughout Europe and countries around the world.
And we learned today that Russia captured Chernobyl. Ukraine's foreign minister raised the specter of another nuclear disaster. Is that something the U.S. government is concerned about?
Well, they're going after various utilities, power facilities. Chernobyl's one of them. Obviously, that causes heightened concern and scrutiny. It's something we're looking very carefully at.
When President Biden addressed the nation today, he said that Putin wants a new Soviet Union. Is there intelligence to suggest that President Putin will advance beyond Ukraine?
You don't need intelligence to tell you that that's exactly what President Putin wants. He's made clear that he'd like to reconstitute the Soviet empire. Short of that, he'd like to reassert a sphere of influence around neighboring countries that were once part of the Soviet bloc. Now, when it comes to a threat beyond Ukraine's borders, there's something very powerful standing in his way. That's Article 5 of NATO. An attack on one is an attack on all.
So on that point, I mean, while U.S. troops are not in Ukraine, they are close by.
So, and there's a little bit to go up with that. And at first, I love how Anthony Blinken, oh, well, you don't need intelligence to know that this is what Putin wants. No, but if you'd actually like to display something here that backs up what the fuck it is that you have to say, instead of just coming out and say, oh, well, we say that he wants to reform the Soviet Union, so that's what he wants. You don't need intelligence for that. Let's see here. Reading here from this one here, Secretary of State Anthony Blinken said it's obvious. Russian President Vladimir Putin has goals beyond Ukraine and may have other countries in his sights. When President Biden addressed the nation today, he said that Putin wants a new Soviet Union. Is there intelligence to suggest that President Putin will advance beyond Ukraine? CBS Evening News' anchor and managing editor Nora O'Donnell said asked Blinken in an interview on Thursday. Wow, I can talk this morning. You don't need intelligence to tell you that's exactly what President Putin wants, the top U.S. diplomat said. He's made clear that he'd like to reconstitute the Soviet Empire. Short of that, he'd like to reassert a sphere of influence around neighboring countries that were once part of the Soviet bloc. And short of that, he'd like to make sure that all these countries are somehow neutral. But Putin would face intense resistance from NATO in doing so, he said. Article 5 of NATO, an attack on one is an attack on all. It's exactly why we've been reinforcing NATO's eastern flank. The Biden admin has been adamant that it will not send U.S. troops into Ukraine, which is not a part of NATO, though it is stationing troops in nearby countries. Instead, the U.S. is arming Ukraine with weapons and has unleashed a series of sanctions against Russia. When asked what the U.S. is doing to lower the risk of an accidental escalation between U.S. troops in nearby countries and Russian forces, Blinken said the Biden admin wants to have communication with Russia on a military basis to make it clear what it risks if it miscalculates. As Russia launched an attack on Ukraine, Putin warned that countries that stood in its way would face severe consequences that have never been seen in his country, raising concerns that he was threatening a nuclear attack. I can't begin to get into his head and say exactly what he means by that, Blinken said. I don't know, Anthony. It kind of sounds to me like he's threatening to blow us all to fucking kingdom come with a nuclear attack. Quick, somebody call Vault-Tec. Somebody form Vault-Tec. We prepared for whatever course that he chooses to take. Which means we're going to get the powerful elites down into bunkers, and the rest of you fuckers, you're on your own. So that's what Blinken has to say, and I mean, he doesn't know shit. He really doesn't. It doesn't take intelligence to know that's what Putin wants. Again, would you like to back that up? Because if you'd like to back that up, I'd like to see what it is that you know here. Because I need intelligence to know that. As far as I know, he looked over onto a borders and looked across the world and saw a weak leader who was at the head of NATO and said, I go in and I push pull. I poke bear right now. Because I can get away with it. That's what I see coming off of this. And a weak and feckless leader who will back down and stay away in the instance where he's threatened by nuclear weapon fire. After being so blustery and bold that I'm not going to put up the shit from Putin. Putin doesn't want me to be president because I'm the only person that's ever stood toe to toe with him, man. Come on. 2. We're going to throw sanctions out there, but we're not going to do anything over here. But that's what they say coming off of that. From the Blaze. Reload. Ukraine president offers weapons to any citizen who wants to defend the country. He says, be ready to support Ukraine in the squares of our cities. Well, here's the thing, Volodymyr Zelensky. I agree with what you did because, like I said yesterday, gun behind every blade of grass is probably the best way to defend your country. It's probably one of the best ways to defend your country, but the part of that is you should have done this in 2014. If you wanted to have an independent nation, you should have done this in 2014 after Crimea was annexed, because you knew that the rest of your country was probably coming next, and it was probably going to be starting in your industrial region. But honestly, if it was me, I would have done this in 1991 when my country broke away from the Soviet Union. But that's just me. Hours after Russia launched a full-scale invasion of his country, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky Thursday morning issued a call to arms, publicly declaring that he would give weapons to any Ukrainian citizen who wished to defend his country. As Russian troops poured into the Ukraine and air assaults pummeled military installations, airports, and hospitals, Vladimir Putin told Ukrainian forces to lay down their arms and go home or face violence. But Zelensky was not willing to see his military or his people lie down and take the unprovoked assault without a fight. In a series of tweets, the president urged his fellow citizens to defend their country. "We will give weapons to anyone who wants to defend country. Be ready to support Ukraine in the squares of our cities," Zelensky said. And yes, as we read earlier, lift sanctions on all citizens of Ukraine who are ready to defend our country as part of the territorial defense with weapons in hands. Either exiles or criminals. I'm not sure what he meant by that, but I'm guessing it was one of the two. Zelensky's tweets echoed remarks made a day prior. In a passionate speech addressing Russian citizens who may be sympathetic to Ukraine's cause, Zelensky promised retaliation to any military advance. "If we'll be attacked by enemy troops, if they try to take country away from us, our freedom, our lives, the lives of children, we will defend ourselves, not attack, but defend ourselves. And when you will be attacking us, you will see our faces, not our backs, but our faces," he declared. Days before, the Ukrainian parliament cleared the way for citizens to carry arms and act in self-defense, and within hours, gun stores in the country were being cleared of product. Not all Ukrainian citizens have resolved to take up arms, and understandably so. Russia's initial air assault campaign brought devastation to parts of the country and aroused a great deal of fear and panic. Highways were reportedly jammed up on Thursday morning and afternoon as many sought to flee major population centers and head west. Russia claimed Thursday evening that it had destroyed at least 74 military installations, including 11 airfields. Russian troops reportedly captured an airport in Hostomel, just outside of the Ukrainian city of Kiev. Ukraine also reported that enemy troops had seized control of Chernobyl nuclear power plant. But not everything was going the Kremlin's way. Russia's aggression came with a significant economic toll. Russia's stocks plummeted at least 33% on Thursday, and the country's currency, the ruble, hit an all-time low against the US dollar, CNN reported. The outlet noted the Moscow Stock Exchange had suspended trading earlier on Thursday amid news of the invasion. However, when dealing resumed, the stocks went into free fall. The crash reportedly wiped out about $70 billion in value from Russia's biggest companies. Moreover, that downturn preceded the handing down of further severe sanctions from the US, UK, European Union, and other allies. The hope of government leaders in the West is that Russia's military campaign will be too economically devastating to continue on. It remains to be seen if sanctions alone will deter Putin or work quickly enough to defend Ukraine. Well, see, the economic sanctions don't really bother Putin because, hey, if a factory or something goes under because of the economy, the Russian government will find work for these other people. This is a centrally planned economy, and if something goes out, to the mines you go, especially the business leaders who let the company fall. Out to the mines you go, bye-bye, and some of them might never be seen again. But yeah, I mean that's where we're going off with this, and yeah, the time to tell your people to buy guns, to learn how to use guns, to learn how to point and aim guns, again, was probably in 2014 with the predecessor, as Randy pointed out. That is correct. It was a different guy in 2014, but still, if you wanted to be an independent nation, that was the time to come back out and say, hey, let's hold up arms. Or Zelensky, for that matter, if he thinks that this is such a big threat after what happened in 2014. Hey guys, I'm going to urge Parliament to lift the ability for you guys, or the inability for you guys to buy guns. I'm going to urge Parliament to lift the gun ban for you guys. Arm up as soon as he's in office. But again, the proper time to do this, if Ukrainians wanted to be an independent nation, was 1991. From Insider, Ukrainian and Russian forces have been fighting for hours over a critical airfield just outside of Kiev. Ukrainian and Russian forces have been fighting for hours over a critical airfield in the outskirts of Kiev, Ukraine's capital. Russian forces attacked and seized the Hostomel airfield, a cargo airport near Kiev that is also known as Antonov Airport, early Thursday. According to the Agence France Presse, Ukraine's leadership vowed to take it back, AFP added. The enemy paratroopers in Hostomel have been blocked, and troops have received an order to destroy them, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said in a video address. Hostomel is in the northwest suburbs of Kiev, which could make it critical to the defense of Ukrainian capital. Control of the strategic airport would allow Russia to quickly reinforce its fight with troops and supplies. Yep, that's the exclusion zone, which, by the way, they took Chernobyl right there. I chose not to cover that because that's not as big of a deal as they think it is. Only because all the kids know about Chernobyl because of Netflix. That's the only reason it's on. That's a big deal. And it's all scary because they might use that to do something nuclear with it, and there might be radiation everywhere. It's a deal, but it's not a massive deal. Not the kind of deal that they're trying to make it out to be. But I mean, looking at this here, we see the map, we see Kiev, we see the Hostomel airport. So that's the one that's in question right here. Matthew Chance, a CNN reporter who has been on the ground outside Kiev, reported earlier Thursday that Russian airborne troops were engaged in a firefight with Ukrainian troops at the airfield. It shows us now for the first time just how close Russian forces have gotten towards the center of the Ukrainian capital, the reporter said. Let's watch.
Right in the middle of the fighting. Matthew, tell us what you're witnessing there.
Stop. Jim, we've come out of the centre.
What we may get is having to hear the reporter from the BBC talking in the background.
Of the Ukrainian capital, Kiev. And we are here at the Antonov Airport, which is about 25 kilometres, 15 miles or so out of the centre. These troops you can see over here. Stand up, Lewis. These troops you can see over here, they are Russian airborne forces. They have taken this airport. They've allowed us to come in and be with them as they defend the perimeter of this air base here, where helicopter-borne troops, these troops, were landed in the early hours of this morning to take and to form an air bridge to allow for more troops to come in. You can see these are Russian forces. You can tell they're Russian. I've spoken to them already. You can tell they're Russian. They've got that orange and black band to identify them as Russian forces. I've spoken to the commander on the ground there within the past few minutes, and he said they are now in control of this airport. And within the past few seconds, just before you came to us, they were engaged in a firefight, presumably with the Ukrainian military, which says it is staging a counter-offensive to try and take back this airport. We can tell you now, I'm standing outside the...
So that's what they say coming off of that. Helicopters were seen flying low over the airfield, and witnesses nearby told AFP that they saw fighter jets fire missiles at Ukrainian troops as the fighting began. Then there was shooting. It lasted 3 hours, one local resident told AFP. Then 3 more jets flew in and they started shooting again. And there's the smoke rising off of this. And this was kind of, by the way, just a back and forth here. We're going to read from the Times of Israel for just a moment. Russian troops capture Antonov Airport outside of Kiev. And that's the same news report we just watched here. Russian troops have overtaken the Antonov Airport just outside of Kiev. A CNN reporter on the ground confirms Antonov is a cargo airport. And unfortunately, this is all archived, so we're not going to be able to see any of this here. But yes, with this, at one point Russia took it. But from Insider, Ukrainian president announces Got those in the wrong order. From Axios, Ukraine claims it has regained control of the airport outside of Kiev. From Jacob Knutson. A Ukraine official claimed the country has regained control of an international airport roughly 25 miles outside of Kiev after it was seized by Russian forces on Thursday. Russia would have a key air bridge to deliver more troops and military equipment for a potential assault on the capital with control of Antonov International Airport. CNN reporter Matthew Chance and a camera crew witnessed Russian troops delivered by helicopter defending the perimeter of the airport after capturing it from Ukrainian forces. Chance said the Ukrainian military was staging a counteroffensive to reclaim the airport. "I'm standing by on the outside of the perimeter of the Antonov Air Force, and it has not been taken back by the Ukrainian military. It is Russian military," he said. So, Russia came in, they grabbed it, and they lost it. So, if all of this is true, of course, and this is CNN honk honk, if all of this is true, then good on Ukraine for going back in and militarily taking back what's probably one of the most important outposts in the conflict. From Insider, Ukrainian president announces general mobilization of all conscripts and reservists to last 90 days. I don't think this is going to last for that long. I think we are right on the edge of this is over. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky on Thursday ordered a general military mobilization throughout the country as Russia continues its large-scale military assault in Ukraine. The declaration ordered the conscription of conscripts and reservists for military service, as well as their delivery to military units and institutions of the armed forces of the Ukraine in order to ensure the defense of the state. The mobilization, which included all of Ukraine's major cities, will be carried out within 90 days. The decree said it will provide personnel, vehicles, infrastructure, and land use for the Ukrainian government and military amid Russia's ongoing invasion, according to the decree. The General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine will determine the necessary number of conscripts, reservists, and vehicles within the 90-day mobilization term, the order said. Ukraine has also banned all male citizens age 18 from 60 from leaving the country, according to CNN, which cited the State Border Guard Service. The temporary restriction was imposed after Ukraine declared martial law, the statement said, according to the outlet, and it will stay in effect as long as the country remains under martial law. So that's what we see coming up with that. Let's grab, what else do we have here? Some action shots. Ukraine downs Russian plane over Kiev. There's a photo of it. And some more photo of everything here. Ukraine forces shot down a Russian aircraft over Kiev on the pre-dawn hours Friday morning, causing debris from the plane to fall into a high-rise apartment building and set it on fire, according to an advisor from the country's interior minister. Footage shared online appeared to show the plane being downed as fiery debris hailed down on an apartment building over the city's riverbank. It's unclear if the aircraft was occupied. At least 3 people in the building were injured, according to Kiev Major Vitaly Klitschko. The counterattack came after several loud explosions were heard over Kiev around 4 a.m. The blast came from Ukrainian air defenses firing the Russian aircraft, according to Heroshenko. The incident happened about 24 hours after Russia invaded the country by air, land, and sea, a mission that authoritarian President Vladimir Putin claimed was to demilitarize its democratic neighbor. No, its claim was that it was going to denazify its democratic neighbor. So that's what we see of that. We might actually break in and see what's going on with the calling for talks. But that's probably happened either right as we were going live or right afterwards. I get a map for this one, because that is something that we need to look at here, because it's something we've pointed out before. But Ukraine asked Turkey to shut the Black Sea waterways to Russian ships. Let's get the Ukrainian map here. Yes, no, I know. It's all about Trump. Trump praised Putin. Dude, if you go, like, seriously, right now, and it might be different for you because of your preferences here, but right now, if you Google Ukraine, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all 5 of the articles on the front page right now, I'll bring it over here so you can see it. It has nothing to do with what's actually going on in Ukraine, which we'll be going and looking at the map. Reason we brought this up. But in going to look at the map, here are the top 5 stories. Trump! Republicans! Republicans! Trump! Trump! None of these people are in power of any of this right now. Except for the Republicans' small amount of power to stop the agenda rather than proposing something new. But the reason that we came over here was just to look at the map for a second. So what they're talking about here in Al Jazeera is part of the, from what I understand, is part of the big reason, even though I've told you repeatedly that strategically this doesn't make any sense. Vladimir Putin, I want warm water port for my navy. I want the warm water port for that. That is how I get navy out, this through Black Sea. But you have 2 canals that are going to stop warships from going through, and they're both owned by Turkey, which is a EU member. Now, I know that there are contracts out there, there are treaties that make this unadvisable, but it's not impossible to do. Russia's in breach of treaty right now. Why the fuck wouldn't Turkey come out and say, okay, well, fuck you. Your warm water ports are shut down because you have to go through my country to do it. But this here is what they're talking about. From Al Jazeera, Ukraine asks Turkey to shut Black Sea waterways to Russian ships. Ukraine has asked Turkey to close the Bosphorus and Dardanelles Straits to Russian ships. Kiev's ambassador to Ankara has said, as Russia launched an air and ground assaults on its neighbor. The request on Thursday puts NATO members, Turkey, which shares a maritime border with Ukraine and Russia in the Black Sea, and has good relations with both countries, in a difficult position. Under the 1936 Montreux Convention, Ankara has control over the straits and can limit warship passage during wartime or if threatened. We're calling for the airspace, Bosphorus and Dardanelles Straits to be closed. We have conveyed our relevant demand to the Turkish side. At the same time, we want sanctions imposed on the Russian side, Ambassador Vasil Bodnar told a news conference in Ankara. But also keep in mind, Turkey, sitting in this situation, I mean, yeah, it would be cool. Oh, yeah. While Turkey itself does not carry any border with Russia at all, Georgia, I believe, is still allied with Russia. And Azerbaijan is allied with Iran, which is a proxy state of Russia to that point. So they've got proxy on the other side of this here. But they've also got this wide open coastline into the Black Sea, where there are warm water warships in the Black Sea from Russia. Istanbul, as well as Zonguldak, Amsara, Sinop, Samsun, Hopa, Riz, Trabzon. They're all in your sights, or do. Those are all in, and those are all full of Turkish people. And those are all in the sights of Russians if they decide to make a sea offensive from the Black Sea. Turkey is in a really bad spot with this. There was no immediate statement by Ankara on Thursday. They advised the citizens in Ukraine to stay at home or in a safe place and avoid traveling after airlines canceled flights due to the closure of Ukraine's airspace. Recep Tayyip Erdogan also convened a summit of top security officials for 8 a.m. GMT to discuss the Russian offensive, his office said. Turkey has opposed sanctions on Russia and has been calling for NATO and Russia to tone down their rhetoric. Erdogan said last month Turkey was ready to do whatever is necessary to avoid a war, but Ankara has also described Russian steps against Ukraine as unacceptable. But that's what we see off of that. Let's look at some of the action here. Massive explosion rocks Ukraine capital, city of Kiev. Let's watch. Whatever was shot down over Kiev was pretty big.
Жесть. Самолет, ёпта.
I believe that was the airplane that they talked about.
Жесть.
Clearest view of the plane that was shot down over Kiev moments ago. Clearest with a curtain in front of it. Is that all of it? No, that's all of it. But yeah, that's the plane that got shot down that we talked about earlier. So thank you, Daily Wire, for providing video for that. Biden has been presented with options for massive cyber attacks against Russia. From NBC, the options presented include disrupting the internet across Russia, shutting off power, and stopping trains in their tracks. From Ken Dilanian and Courtney Kube. It was a Russian plane, by the way. President Biden had been presented with a menu of options for the U.S. to carry out massive cyber attacks designed to disrupt Russia's ability to sustain its military operations in Ukraine. Four people familiar with deliberations tell NBC News. Two U.S. intelligence officials, one Western intelligence official, and another person briefed on the matter say no final decisions have been made, but they say... Oh, that's just a sanctions announcement. But they say U.S. intelligence and military cyber warriors are proposing the use of American cyber weapons on a scale never before contemplated. Among the options, disrupting internet connectivity across Russia, shutting off electric power, and tampering with railroad switches to hamper Russia's ability to resupply its forces, three of the sources said. You could do everything from slow the trains down to have them fall off the tracks, one person briefed on the matter said. The sources said the options presented, including preemptive responses to Russia's invasion of the Ukraine. Well, it's not really preemptive anymore, is it? Because they done about to take the capital. Irrespective of whether Russia launches its own cyber attacks on the U.S. in retaliation for sanctions, they said most of the potential cyber attacks under consideration are designed to disrupt but not destroy, and therefore fall short of an active war by the U.S. against Russia. They say the idea is to harm networks, not people. Officials are debating the legal authorities under which the attacks would take place, whether they would be covert action or clandestine military activity. Either way, the U.S. would not publicly acknowledge carrying out the operations, sources say. U.S. Cyber Command, the National Security Agency, the CIA, and other agencies would have a role to play in the operations, the sources said. So... and that's another NBC report. What are the options? Let's actually listen to what it is they have to say here. I'm curious. Because I also know what the Brandon admin had to say about this. But let's have a listen.
The Chewy box is coming today.
Calm down.
Chewy boxes!
We just ordered it yesterday.
Oven-baked apple biscuits! Holy Leroy. Biscuits!
Get fast, free 1 to 3 day shipping when they just can't wait. Chewy.
We're joined now by NBC News national
Bunnies still frighten me.
security analyst Jeremy Bash, former chief of staff at the CIA, as well as the Pentagon. And Jeremy, I was so struck by what the NATO commander said this morning, Jens Stoltenberg, when he said, we are now seeing a war in Europe, the likes of which we thought we had banished to history. What do you make of this latest development?
Well, I think the Secretary General is exactly right. The post-Cold War era is over. Because, Savannah, Ukraine is the largest country in Europe. It's a country about the size of Texas with a population of more than 40 million people. This wasn't just some small territorial action by Putin's forces. This is a massive military invasion, a complex attack against military command and control nodes. And I think the key thing here is that we're going to see over the next days and weeks a slow and steady onslaught by Russian forces against the Ukrainian military to drive the Zelensky government out of Kiev. And I think we're going to be settling into a very prolonged standoff between the United States, our allies, and Russia with its now partner, China.
And there's so much to unravel here, but let's just talk about the sanctions that are expected to be unveiled later today. Even if the U.S. hits Russia with everything it's got, clearly Vladimir Putin is not going to be deterred. So what options do we have? Does the world just watch as Russia rolls over Ukraine?
Yeah, I think there are two ways we can try to impose costs on Putin. Both are imperfect. One, as you said, is to try to cripple the Russian economy, make them feel the pain, not just in the immediate days and weeks, but over a very long time, so that the Russian economy continues to stay in free fall. But second, I think we're going to be arming, training, and equipping the Ukrainian forces so they can launch an insurgency. They can fight back to defend their own country.
All right, Jeremy Bash, on a busy morning. Thank you for your time. We're joined.
When do you miss her the most?
Okay, so they're not talking.
I saw.
Shut up. They're not talking about the cyber attacks, which is good. I mean, they're talking about it in the article itself, but all they're talking about here is sanctions. I thought that we were going to say, you know, shut down the military, shut down the internet, shut down the power, shut down everything. Make it hurt for these people. So that's what we see off of that. Let's grab one from The Hill on the same topic here. White House knocks report on Biden being presented with cyber attack options on Russia, from Monique Beals. But no red-haired bobblehead. The White House is rejecting reports of cyber attack options to disrupt Russia's Ukraine invasion being presented to President Biden. This report on cyber options being presented to POTUS is off base and does not reflect what is actually being discussed in any shape or form. And I'll circle back to that. Press Secretary Red-Haired Bobblehead said in a tweet on Thursday. Her statement followed the NBC News report that the U.S. cyber warriors are primed to respond to Moscow's military action on an unprecedented scale. NBC reported that the final decisions could not have been made, that its sources said the type of cyber attack could include interfering with Russian internet connectivity, shutting off electricity, and disrupting railroad switches to interfere with Moscow's ability to resupply forces. So they're kind of pissed right now that somebody came out and said, oh no, they're talking about doing cyber attacks. Don't you want to go back and do that? And by the way, speaking of cyber attacks, and cyber attacks on this channel, if you do want to get your last minute messages read right now, make sure you get them in. Or if you just want to hear your name spoken at the end of this program, as I say a thank you to everybody who's chatting today and throughout the week. So make sure we're in probably the last 13 minutes of actual content here before we get into this. But I mean, yeah, the White House is pissed. No, we're not going to do anything cyber here. What are you talking about? Nothing to see here. Let's grab one from Insider. Massive protests erupted in Putin's hometown of St. Petersburg as Russians voice opposition to war in the Ukraine. From Jake Epstein. Massive protests erupted on Thursday in Russia as President Vladimir Putin's hometown of St. Petersburg as people voiced their opposition to the invasion of the Ukraine. Videos posted to Twitter showed a sea of people gathered in a section of St. Petersburg, the second largest city, chanting and holding signs to object to Russia's offensive in the Ukraine. I believe I have this one in a separate tweet. I don't have this one, though. There's a photo. A photo posted to Twitter by Elish Hart. A news editor at Russian outlet Meduza showed a line of police in riot gear in the city's Palace Square. Russian government forces have threatened to arrest anti-war protesters who took to the streets after Putin announced military action against Ukraine on Thursday. I don't know if I have this one. But let's look at some of these protests here, and we will see once again that the United States has been out-protested twice in a month by foreign countries. That's one. Let's see what else we have. Look at the size of the anti-war protests in St. Petersburg. Wow. Look at all those people. And another one here. Watch, anti-war protests in downtown Moscow. Despite police crackdown, at least 1,762 people have been detained. Because, yeah, you don't really want to go up against the government in Russia. And those 1,762 people are probably not going to be heard from ever again. All right, and more. See anti-war protesters being arrested in Russia from CNN.
How much resistance is there to President Putin?
Yeah, Aaron, I'm literally going to step out of the way of the camera right now because you can see 3 people here just being arrested. There isn't so much of a central protest here. These are some ladies here that are in this central area of Moscow. While we've been here for the past 45 minutes, there's another person being dragged out of the subway here by his face, being dragged by the police, being arrested, thrust up against the vehicle, being frisked. We've seen dozens of people being arrested here over the last 45 minutes. Now, what the police have been explaining here is that there is no authorized anti-war protest allowed here. We've seen people, when they've been arrested, the police search their bags and they take out of their bags signs that say, "Stop the war." Then they're loaded into the police vans. We've seen that happen time after time after time over the last 45 minutes here. We know across the country, in dozens of cities, there have been protests similar to this. The government says they're not authorized protests. They've warned people not to attend them. They say that people can get arrested, that there will be legal repercussions, and the government even says, you know, if you get a criminal record for criminal activity at one of these events, then that can affect you for the rest of your life. And I'll just spin around this way. Here's another man just being taken away and arrested here. This is happening literally by the minute, and I'm looking at another 1-2 people coming up behind Lilian, our camerawoman. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But these 6 other people here, literally while we've been talking to you in the past couple of minutes, more than 10 people have been arrested. There's another.
Yeah, because if you speak out against the government in Russia, in Mother Russia, if you speak out against the government, you're never heard from again. This is not news. Let's talk about the House Plant in Chief. Benny says, "Holy Moses, is Putin going to hit America with nukes? Joe Biden. I have no idea. Let's listen.
To take. Cecilia Vega, ABC.
Sir, sanctions clearly have not been enough to deter Vladimir Putin to this point. What is going to stop him? How and when does this end? And do you see him trying to go beyond Ukraine? And a second question I'll just give to you now. This statement that he gave last night, the threat that he gave, the West will face consequences greater than any you have faced in history. Is he threatening a nuclear strike?
I have no idea what he's threatening. I know what he has done, number one. And number two, no one expected the sanctions to prevent anything from happening. It has to show, this is going to take time.
Then what the fuck was the point? Is Putin going to hit America with nukes? I have no idea. The sanctions, nobody expected the sanctions to do anything. Then why fucking do it? Seriously.
And we have to show resolve so he knows what's coming. And so the people of Russia know what he's brought on them. That's what this is all about. This is going to take time. It's not going to occur. He's going to say, oh, my God, these sanctions are coming. I'm going to stand down. He's going to test the resolve of the West to see if we stay together. And we will. We will, and it will impose significant costs on him.
Yeah, no. That. Now I see why 25th Amendment was trending yesterday. Actually, I know why it was trending yesterday. By the way, 25th Amendment was trending yesterday, and when I last looked at it, was over 16,000 tweets. But when I actually looked into the trend itself, it seemed to be 25-1 people who were complaining about people who were talking about the 25th Amendment versus people who were actually suggesting the 25th Amendment. 25-1 from when I scrolled through it. Which means they basically Barbara Streisand themselves. But I mean back to here.
I know what he has done, number one. And number two, no one expected the sanctions to prevent anything from happening.
Really? Well, technically you didn't do the sanctions until afterward, but still, really? Then why? Explain this to me. I need to hear it from your demented voice. All right, some more stuff on the House Plant Chief. Biden on Russia invading Ukraine. Nobody expected the sanctions to prevent anything from happening. This is from Ryan Saavedra. Democrat President Joe Biden said during a press conference on Thursday that nobody expected the administration nobody expected that the sanctions that his administration had hoped would deter Russia President Vladimir Putin from invading Ukraine would actually prevent anything from happening. Yeah, we saw that, but looks like RNC Research is saying Biden today, no one is expecting the sanctions to prevent anything from happening, which we just listened to. And Harris on Sunday, the purpose of the sanctions has and always continues to be deterrence.
No one expected the sanctions to prevent anything from happening.
The purpose of the sanctions has always been and continues to be deterrence.
So there's some mixed messaging for you. That's it. That's the article. Another one from the Daily Wire because it has video. Freedom will prevail. Biden addresses nation, refuses to sanction Putin or comment on China. Of course. More than 15 hours after the beginning of the Russian invasion of Ukraine, President Brandon held a press conference in the White House to discuss the administration's response to Putin's military attack. Brandon said that Putin acted without justification and that the attack was a premeditated one that had been planned for months. Russia had rejected every good faith effort made by the US and its allies to address mutual security concerns through dialogue, which would have avoided the needless conflict and human suffering. Brandon gave a brief overview of the assault, including the shelling of Ukraine's historic cities, cyber attacks, and staged political theater in Moscow made up of outlandish and baseless claims that Ukraine was the aggressor in the pursuit of genocide. The president argued that his admin had shared intel with allies so that there was no confusion regarding accountability before confirming that Putin is the aggressor and that Putin chose this war and now he and his country will bear the consequences. Biden claimed. Let's listen. Aaron Rupar. Putin is the aggressor. Putin chose this war. Aaron Rupar is kind of a simp, though. We've got a few videos of this, so let's grab some of this here, including one that came from the Daily Wire, which means that was probably selectively edited to be as funny as humanly possible.
Putin is the aggressor. Putin chose this war, and now he and his country will bear the consequences. Today, I'm authorizing additional strong sanctions and new limitations on what can be exported to Russia. This is going to impose severe cost on the Russian economy, both immediately and over time. We have purposely designed these sanctions to maximize the long-term impact on Russia and to minimize the impact on the United States and our allies. And I want to be clear, the United States is not doing this alone. For months, we've been building a coalition of partners representing well more than half the global economy. 27 members of the European Union, including France, Germany, Italy, as well as the United Kingdom, Canada, Japan, Australia, New Zealand, and many others, to amplify the joint impact of our response. I just spoke with the G7 leaders this morning, and we're in full and total agreement. We will limit Russia's ability to do business in dollars.
So, and that goes on with the sanctions off of this here. What else? What else does this idiot have to say? Biden, no one expects... Yeah, we saw that one. No one expected the sanctions to prevent anything right after the speech announcing the new round of sanctions. What else? Conservative news. Biden ignores question on why he won't commit to sanctioning Putin.
You said in recent weeks that big nations cannot bluff when it comes to something like this. You recently said that the idea of personally sanctioning President Putin was on the table. Is that a step that you're prepared to take? And if not...
It's not a bluff, it's on the table.
Sanctioning President Putin?
Yes.
Why not sanction him today, sir?
Mr. President?
Why not sanction him today, sir?
Mr. President, if I can...
Yeah, you saw them come up and circle the wagons, too. They jumped up to try to throw more questions out because they didn't want him to have to answer that either. Who was that reporter, by the way? Did they say? No, they don't say. And what else here? Another reporter. Are you urging China to help isolate Russia? I'm not prepared to comment on that at the moment.
And are you, if I could follow up, sir, are you urging China to help isolate Russia? Are you urging China to help isolate Russia?
I'm not prepared to comment on that at the moment.
Well, we've seen his press conferences. He's really not prepared to comment on a lot of things at any given moment. Let's keep going. I do want to get a little bit more of this. Even if we have to go back and run off headlines just to get off of this. Just so we get all the Ukraine stuff done. ABC 13 News, out of doesn't tell me where. John Kerry says climate change concerns equally important as Russia and Ukraine crisis. So there's John Kerry right now, the climate envoy. John Kerry. If we're going to go to war, we need to make sure that we are looking in on what the climate change is going to do, and I'm going to tell you this from my private yacht that I got to by taking my private jet to my private port. But you plebs must never drive your vehicles more than 15 miles in a week, because otherwise you might burn us out to a crisp. On climate change, that John Kerry. Oh, let's listen.
I'm very concerned about Ukraine because of the people of Ukraine and because of the principles that are at risk in terms of international law and trying to change boundaries of international law by force. I thought we lived in a world that had said no to that kind of activity, and I hope diplomacy will win. But massive emissions consequences to the war, but equally importantly, you're going to lose people's focus. You're going to lose certainly big country attention because they will be diverted, and I think it could have a damaging impact. So, I think hopefully President Putin would realize that in the northern part of his country, they used to live on 66% of a nation that was over frozen land. Now it's thawing, and his infrastructure is at risk.
I hope President Putin realizes that he is getting more land because his land is thawing off and he can use it more again because of climate change and what we are doing here in a natural cooling and warming cycle. John Kerry, everyone. Another one from the Daily Wire that a lot of mainstream pundits are not going to tell you about because, well, this is their darling here. Democrat took donations from Putin pipeline lobbyists while alleging GOP ties to Russia. From Gabe Kaminsky. And who is it? It's Eric Swalwell. California Democrat Eric Swalwell, one of the many lawmakers who slammed Republicans as former President Trump for cozying up to Russia, was bankrolled with donations from a high-level lobbyist for a major Russian pipeline. The congressman raked in $2,900 last year from Vincent Roberti Sr., who chairs the group Roberti Global. In 2018, Roberti donated $5,400 to Swalwell's campaign. As reported by the Washington Free Beacon, the lobbyist group was sent $2.4 million last year from Nord Stream 2 AG, which is behind the Russian pipeline President Biden announced sanctions against right after the country invaded Ukraine. Still, while taking money from Roberti, Swalwell criticized Texas Republican Ted Cruz, who has been vocal about his disagreement with the Brandon waiving sanctions on the pipeline last May. Cruz tweeted in December of 2021 that history will remember that the Ukraine faced invasion from Russia. Joe Biden used every last trick in the book to exempt sanctions on Putin's Nord Stream 2 pipeline, to which Swalwell responded, "On Russia, history will remember pro-Putin enablers like you." So, yeah, he wanted to scream the Russia, Russia, Russia thing forever and ever, and then he was being paid by Russia at the same time. From CNBC, Ukraine's foreign minister says Kiev struck by horrific Russian rocket strikes. We've seen some of this here, but this is a live update, so we're going to skip this one here. From The Blaze, what do we have here? Just a couple more. We've got a couple more, and then we've got one of I had to see it, so you had to see it. That's what we've got to do. So let's get this done here. Our mindset is to never leave an American behind. Project Dynamo helping extract U.S. citizens and residents from the Ukraine. Project Dynamo, which has been extracting people from Afghanistan, is also helping to get people out of Ukraine, where Russia has launched an invasion. We had a group of people that were on the ground that we had identified that wanted to get out, especially if things went sideways. Project Dynamo spokesperson James Judge told Fox News Brian Stern, who was on our team, could feel the explosions in Kiev and said, "All right, we need to go. We need to get out of here." So this is definitely a good thing. This is definitely something to see as we go along with this. I didn't even know this was still going, but I'm very, very happy that it is. I believe this is Beck's project, isn't it? Isn't this Glenn Beck's thing, I thought? I'm not sure. But yeah, good on this that there's private industry still trying to get people up out of the Ukraine and Afghanistan as well, because the US government and the State Department have left these people behind. And I'm very glad that somebody's stepping up for them. Get your last minute messages in, folks. I see 10 people are watching. I only see a couple names showing up here. And remember, if your comment is surprisingly, or not surprisingly, if it is sufficiently stupid, bigoted, hateful, mean, or otherwise, it will raise the intellectual level of the show and get read on the air. So get those last minute messages in. I do want to say thank you to everybody who's chatting in the live chat today, including the people that have already had to take off. One more, yeah, we had a lot of Daily Wire today, which I apologize for. I try not to grab everything from one source especially, but a lot of the stuff was stuff that everybody else wasn't covering. I looked for some of the stuff on other sources. 2 Russian cosmonauts remain at International Space Station, and Biden just sanctioned the Russia space program. From Virginia Kruta. President Biden announced new sanctions Thursday designed to punish Russian President Vladimir Putin for launching a full-scale invasion into the Ukraine. Among those sanctions were measures that Biden said will degrade their aerospace industry, including their space program. Biden said today the U.S. is blocking multiple large Russian banks, including VTB, sanctioning Russian elites and family members, cutting off Russia's high-tech imports, which will prevent them from modernizing multiple industries such as their space program. But their space program is already modernized because we used it every single time we've gone up to the International Space Station. But that's interesting right here. Biden announces that new sanctions against Russia will degrade their aerospace industry, including their space program. No mention of the partnership at the International Space Station, where 4 NASA astronauts, 2 Russian cosmonauts, 1 European astronaut are currently on board. It kind of looks like it's time to go call Elon. So we'll see if we can't get him up and out of here. Call Elon and Bezos. Tell them to go rescue the people of the world on the space station. An aerospace expert says tensions over Ukraine should not have significant impact on the International Space Station or U.S.-Russia cooperation in space. I don't know, dude. They're packed in an awfully small area together. Seeing the same news that we are. Alright. Last 2. Just if you thought the pettiness and the bitterness and the bickering was over. From the Blaze, amid Russian invasion, Ukraine's official Twitter account calls for the social media platform to ban @Russia. From Alex Nitzberg. Ukraine's official Twitter account has called for the social media company to put a kibosh on Russia's @Russia account. Ukraine tweeted, "Hey people, let's demand Twitter remove @Russia from here." The Ukrainian account declared that there was no place for an aggressor like Russia on Western social media platforms, and they should not be allowed to use the platforms to promote their image while brutally killing the Ukrainian people. Blaze Media's Elijah Schaefer responded to the post by tweeting, "Banning a social media account will stop a war. LOL." So, yeah, that's not going to do anything. Except for them pulling a little tit for tat off of this. Alright, and the last one. I had to hear it, so you had to hear it. Anna Lynn McCord has written a song for Vladimir Putin.
Dear President Vladimir Putin, I'm so sorry that I was not your mother. If I was your mother, you would have been so loved, held in the arms of joyous light. Never would the stories plight the world unfurled before our eyes, a pure demise of nations sitting peaceful under a night sky. If I was your mother, the world would have been warm. So much laughter and joy, and nothing would harm. I can't imagine the stain, the soul-stealing pain that the little boy you must have seen and believed, and the formulation of thought quickly taught that you lived in a cruel, unjust world. Is this why You now decide no one will get the best of you. Is this why you do not hide nor away shy from taking back the world? Was it because so early in life, all that strife racked your little body with fear? If I was your mother, if the world was cold, I'd have died to make you warm. I'd have died to protect you from the unjust, the violence, the terror, the uncertainty. I would have died to give you life. Oh, dear Mr. President Putin, if only I'd been your mother. Perhaps the torture of unwrit youth would not within your heart imbue ascription to such fealty against that.
By the way, there's almost another minute of this. And yes, I had to listen to the whole thing, so you guys do too.
That world that you thought was so cruel. Perhaps you would hold dear human life, and on this night, instead of Mother Russia, you would call me. And I would set your mind quite free with the love that only a mother can give, and only a mother can take away. When holds she doesn't the harm at bay and leaves her boy for the promise of a man, whatever your story, Mr. President Putin, I can't imagine how it feels in your heart, but I know if I was your mother, I would be a start towards the awareness of what a powerful being of light you could be if your mind was only free from the violence you've seen when you were just 2 or 3. I cannot believe I was born too late in a different place when I would have loved you so, watched you play wherever you go.
And the worst part is, there's more. But this particular video cut off. And no, we're not going to go look for the rest of it. But that's it. That's all the time we have. And like I said, all we did was talk Ukraine today. There's some other stuff that happened, and I hope that, well, we will have plenty of time on Monday to get to it because there's no work after that. But, yeah, I mean, we've got the Ghislaine trial. We've got the George Floyd officer's trial that ended yesterday. Jen Psaki and Ted Cruz are going back and forth after each other. The fare beaters on the subway in New York. There's a lot of stuff to go on and to keep talking about with this, but unfortunately we are out of time. And yes, I had to listen to that, so you guys did too. Let's check in with the live chat. Let's see what you guys are saying. So, of course, as we end out on live chat, and we will see Annalyn McCord's face throughout the rest of this too. But her mouth is covered, which is, after listening to that, how it actually should be. So, let's check in with what's going on here today. Let's see how far back we have to go here, because it looks like you guys were busy. Yeah, we don't get all the way to the beginning, but Elephant Man is here with the Elon and the sunglasses. He's busy trying to start a farm, so he's working a lot to get the money for the land. This year is going to be learning to get seeds from plants. So I hope you got heirloom, because otherwise they are not going to sprout. But apparently it is snowing where Elephant Man is. And Sully Blue will get last word for now, and then we will go check in with the live chat and see what you guys are doing here. But Sully Blue will say, "That's awesome, Elephant Man. What are you going to grow?" Elephant Man says food. And we'll catch up with this in just a moment. But let's see who chatted throughout the week. Let's throw some music on, too. On Monday, Mr. Fanning was here, Ron Helton, Marie Maybe Golay, Randy Crush Saga, Arvolt, Sully Blue. Sully Blue's been here all week again. I hope he's still working, obviously. I don't want to see anybody lose their job. But I know that he listens from the truck every once in a while. Can't always comment. I think he's been listening for a lot more, but listening from the truck, can't always comment, so I understand. I do it all the time, too, especially on Ignoramus's show. Life to the Max, Linda Cloud, McConnell Smuggles Coke, who wants to see fish. On Tuesday, Quest Fanning, Ron Helton, McConnell Smuggles Coke, Marie Maybe Golay, Martin Router King was here. That was a new name. I believe that person gave a follow. Yeah, he gave a follow as well a couple days ago, so hope he's still hanging around. Like I said, I told him right in the beginning, I don't do the live chat during the week, but we're coming back and looking at it right now, so. Let's see, Sully Blue, Chilaga 1984, Highleaf, and Goldilock, our friend from over in the Netherlands, came and talked with us as well. On Wednesday, we had Ron Helton, Goats and Scarves, that's a new name, and he's been kind of busy in the Discord. Join the Discord and talk Join the Discord and go talk with people, your like-minded people here, about some of the stuff that's going on here. Put the articles in the articles worth investigating. And they might get onto the show. Randy Crush Saga was here. Arvolt, Quest Fanning, MK Ultra, Chilaga 1984, Sully Blue, Harvey McLeod, and KTZed. We're here on Wednesday. Yesterday was a busy day. There were so many people chatting yesterday. Nobody on DLive showed up, so I actually had to go back through and see who else was on there here. But yesterday we had Sully Blue, Quest Fanning, Goats and Scars, Wolfie Production, Harvey McLeod, KTZed, High Leaf, Chilaga 1984, A Gaines P, who's also in the Discord now. So come out and start conversations going on there. We've got a topic chat where we can go in and set a specific topic. Otherwise, just general chatter. There's places to go and have voice conversations with your friends. It's a good time. It's a great place. Life to the Max, Marie. Life to the Max is in the Discord too, by the way. Marie, Maybe Golay, and MK Ultra. What else are we doing today? We're almost kicked all the way back up to the top. Elephant Man says that he's growing food, but it depends on how much land he can afford. So he might get some chickens. Get some chickens, man, and some cows and stuff. If I get lucky and find a steal at 20 acres, I might even try wheat. Good job. And by the way, you can lease some of that land out too. It depends on your state. I don't know what state you're in, but check your lease laws in the state. You can lease out that land, and usually the person you lease to will give you a little bit of a kickback off your food too, and he probably knows a little bit more about it. Not only can he teach you a little bit about it, and you can observe from watching him on a plot that's leased, but you can also go back and, actually maybe get a kickback from it. Like, hey, okay, I'm paying you to use this plot of land, and here's a little bit of the crop that came off of it too, because hey, why not? I got a little bit of excess here. Have a little bit extra. Having good neighbors is always a good thing, especially in a communal society. Randy says, what's up, fellow fed heads? We're not fed heads. Elephant Man says, Biden terrifies me in this situation. Come on, man! Ron Helton is here. You're going to start a bakery, Elephant Man? Nope, if I sell anything, it'll probably be seeds or eggs, okay? An acre of wheat produces a little over 60 bushels, and each bushel will yield about 60 pounds of whole wheat flour, 360 pounds of flour. Yeah, for an acre, yeah, that's not bad. That's more flour than you can use in a year, or I can use anyway. Easy to store and highly sought after. Yes, very good. And now we're discussing how much is going on there. 2050 Auditor is here. That's a new name. Welcome in. Just had a 5.2 earthquake in Russia. We'll put that on for Monday. Not in 2013, today. Oh, that's way out on the west too. I bet you they felt that in Alaska, or at least got a tidal wave off of it. This is what 2050 is talking about here. Looks like that is, yeah, that's right out over by Alaska here. So it's just on the other side of the international date line. So maybe they won't feel it, but they might get some waves off of it. Maybe a tsunami or something back up off of it. Ooh. Excuse me, why am I so tired? Thank you, 2050 Auditor, by the way. Ron says, I guess if you make yourself a mill, you can trade flour for items you need. Yep. Grinding a countertop mill is needed. That's another way to do it. Wolf says, you mean like Canada and the US? I think that's proxy state there. Elephant. Should we be talking about what Jay is reading? Maybe. That's up to you. Ron says the U.S. refused to talk with Russia before this started. Russia was making a simple demand. Ukraine must not be a part of NATO. Neutral. This could have all been avoided. Reminds me of the Cuban Missile Crisis when the U.S. demanded Russia remove missiles from our doorstep. Arvolt says Alex Jones called this in October of 2021 for February War. Allegedly. I need to look into that. I've seen the memes about it. I need to go look into that and see if that's actually confirmable or not. Quest says, if you're not bald yet, you probably won't be. No, it's getting there. You guys don't see it because of the way I face you, except for sometimes when I go to bash my fucking head against the wall because somebody did something so stupid. But it's happening. It's there. Don't have a lot of room to talk to Stelter about his baldness because it's happening over here. And I've seen my dad too. Now, I'm holding on to mine a little bit longer than my dad did. But yeah, I've seen what's pointed at me genetically from both my maternal side and my paternal side. Genetically, it's probably going to happen at some point. I've done some stuff to stave it off. Started using rosemary oil. Looks like that helps a little bit. I'm not going to use pharma, obviously, because I don't believe in them. But changing some of the vitamins that I take, some of the ways that I eat, and rosemary oil seems to help it a little bit too. Randy, why talk about Stelter being bald when his man purse is a much better target? Apparently the Ghost of Kiev is pure propaganda. It's kind of like the Red Baron. I don't know. I saw some stuff about that, but I chose not to go down that path, so... No, she said, hey, Blinken. Nukes, nukes, nukes. Cases, cases, cases. Yeah, I can see the way that they do things, both way over there. Wolf336 says, is COVID over now? Yeah, that's one thing that going on with the Russia thing is they've been quietly finding ways to get COVID to disappear. And while you're focusing on Russia, the sleight of hand is doing something else over here, and all the mask mandates are going away. Government asserts that you don't need intelligence. Yup, serious question. Why should we get involved? Well, because the State Department has all the documentation on Hunter, and Russia might get that and use that to subvert our election and install another orange dictator. You wouldn't want that, would you? I hope that Russia takes Kiev. I hope that Vladimir Zelensky, even though it doesn't seem like he does, I hope Zelensky tells Putin to fuck himself. Because they have fought valiantly. I don't want to see any harm come to them, but I do want to see Putin get his hands on those documents. So I'm in a torn place on that. I really am. Obama, Biden, Russia take Crimea. Biden, Harris, Russia take Ukraine. How is Trump so bad? Oh, don't forget, Bush, Cheney, Russia takes Georgia. Elephant Man says we need to get out of NATO completely. Yes. He almost said the same thing Trump said to him. Apparently, there was a little drummer boy going on in the background. I didn't hear it. Should have asked him where the false flag operation that they told us what happened went. It was the unmarked tank driving through. No, Elephant Man, you're not the only one hearing the background music. I can hear it too, because I put it there. '80s Kid is here, says they can talk of war on Twitter, but by any mean tweets from Trump and they get kicked off. KTZed is here. Ron says Putin is calling for talks with Ukraine, condition that Ukraine be neutral and a buffer zone with NATO. Yep, we'll probably be talking about that on Monday, because I'm willing to bet that this is all going to be over by Monday. Could end up being good for Ukraine, both sides wanting to sustain it so it doesn't side with their enemy. Quest says occupied. Don't most planes still need pilots? Probably. Arbolt says, I wondered when Turkey would be forced to choose. I'm betting they choose Russia. I don't know, because they're in NATO and the EU. So they might not, because they might be contractually forced not to. Ron says, I think all the mail-order brides have evacuated the Mulatto Sea. I think Russia would level Istanbul if the Turks did that. I think so too. Monteau Convention, like the Swiss town on the eastern side of Lac Léman. I've been there. Lac Léman and Lake Geneva. I've been to Lake Geneva. Lake Geneva is like 45 minutes over there. It sucks to drive through. It's really pretty. It's a great tourist spot, but it fucking blows to drive through. Especially in the summer when it's being touristy. It's not so bad in the middle of winter. But Turkey is the worst place before Thanksgiving. Ron's been watching the live feed. He says it looks pretty quiet in the Capitol right now. Quest says there was chatter yesterday of possible cyber attacks in New York State and New York City government sites. Little movement of vehicles on the streets looking at the live cams. Elephant Man had to take off. Ron says, there's a blogger I follow in St. Petersburg. He was there filming the protests. Violent insurrections is what we call them. Ron says they might be vacationing in Siberia. I think it's cold there this time of year. Fanning says Putin said he'll come after the people that really pull the strings in the West instead of the figureheads if we really come at him. Does that mean that there isn't going to be a Soros anymore? Fanning says, no one else expects? The Spanish Inquisition. Is that the minty milk? No, that's in the fridge right now. This is Mio. Wicked Blue Citrus Mio. And water, of course. Joint Impact. Biden wants to be very epic cougar. Randy says, it doesn't matter who that reporter is. She'll be fired. Quest, all those bombs cause pollution. Don't they realize that? Ron doesn't like John Kerry either, for obvious reasons. Climate crisis, he must be heavily invested in green energy. Kerry is another crook. I love having Ron in the chat. Randy says he hopes Putin is aware that Russia's more farmable than ever before. Yep, but Siberia is still a damn cold place. Shalaga says thank you for the great week of streams. Absolutely. Arvolt has reminded us that Steven is live at CPAC, and he's going on both his phone on Instagram and Twitter. And I guess Let's Be Frank's site too. Fanning says, in all fairness, invading a country and murdering people is marginally worse than mean tweets, and mean tweets can get you banned. They like the slam poetry. Randy says, now this mother you speak of, does it have a penis? Oh, Fanning's turned on. They're all turned on. Didn't you hear her talk? Grow me some avocados. I'd be willing to try. I want to get some tree seeds and see if I can do oak, maple, and apple. Get some of those out and actually plant it out somewhere too. I'd like to go try actually to grow some trees. Because I always say, you know, if you're concerned about global warming, go plant a tree. Don't let taxation do it for you. Go plant a fucking tree of your own. So I actually want to put my money where my mouth is and plant some trees. Ron says British are moving equipment and tanks by truck into Estonia. I hope this does not expand. Damn it. It probably will. Fanning says Russia's focus is sure beyond the region of Ukraine. They said that they were interested in Ron. It's pretty easy to call this a war. No Nostradamus required. Ron has been following, apparently, the military updates. U.S. Airborne Division moved near Ukraine border. This is getting crazy. Randy says, look up the Giant of Kandahar. Soldiers claim to have been attacked by Nephilim. But then he moved to North Carolina. Harvey McLeod is here toward the end. Hi, everyone. Hi, Harvey. Ron says, well, they can take Kiev with minimal damage or bloodshed, but there are soldiers and civilians taking up positions in buildings. Yeah, apparently something that was on the Video Game Study Lounge playlist Sounded like Little Drummer Boy, according to Elephant Man. Ron says that the Russians would have a clear, which will be a lot of destruction. Ron says, I hope everything's over by Monday. This is horrible. Sully says, I was deployed alongside of a bunch of Georgians. Cool dudes and some crazy motherfuckers. Wow, their namesake over in our country is not much different from what I've seen. Ron says, yeah, Stalin was from that area, and he was crazy. I meant the lake on the Swiss and French border. I meant the lake over there on the Wisconsin-Illinois border. It's like, hey guys, you think that jug is an IED? I don't know. We see. Drives over. Nope, not IED. Nice. Ron says, my hours were messed up yesterday. I ended up sleeping in late and missing the stream. Orange 2. I don't know if I can do orange here. My ex-girlfriend suggested that I try. But the problem with doing an orange tree or a lemon tree, because I wanted to do a lemon tree as well. Her suggestion was lemon tree, but I wanted to do an orange tree. Is that I can't do those outside because they're meant to grow in, in Florida weather, essentially. So it has to be warm all the time. And I have to make sure that they stay stunted enough that they stay inside and an inside size. I would be willing to try. In fact, you know what? When I get the seeds, I think this weekend, I will see if I can find an orange and a lemon tree. Just to see what happens. There's a certain way you have to plant the seed. Well, I have to go find the wife first, and then I can plant the seed. Randy, I'm not going to read that, but I love it. Ron apparently has one in the kitchen. We'll take another 2 or 3 trees to bear any fruit. Hope to build a greenhouse before then and put it outside. 2 or 3 years, I'm sorry. Yeah, but once they bear fruit, they're good. I don't like avocados. You can do a miniature citrus tree if you have a sunroom. They should do fine there. I don't have a sunroom either. I've got all 4 of my windows are on the same side of the house, and they only get like 2 hours of sunlight. So you guys got to throw some money in the PayPal and help me buy property. See, that's what you got to do. That's what you got to do. Toss a little bit of money in there. Help me get out of the last little bits of crippling debt that I carried over from Kenosha. We're almost there. A very small number of stuff that I have to go back and take care of yet. But toss a couple dollars in there. Help me out. Help a guy out. And we'll get some property, and I will have all kinds of trees. And I'll build a greenhouse too. Okay, property than a mail order bride, says Ron Helton. And you know what? We'll be out of here for that. I think we're going to be done. What do you guys think? I think we have to be, because I have to put some boots on and go to work. Holy shit, it's late. I might have to go get that Quick Trip breakfast this morning with the minty milk. What do you guys think? Minty milk, Quick Trip breakfast? I think that sounds good. Let's go. Let's get out of here for the week. So, if you guys are still here, sticking around on Twitch, hang around for just a little bit more. I'm going to find somebody to raid right now, so we'll go do some raiding here. Looks like Goldilocks has switched games at this point, so we are going to go with Goldilocks again, I think we're going to do. Because we like her, she comes and hangs out with us too, so we'll go back and I'll ask her how she's doing over in Eastern Europe. Otherwise, come back and join us. I will probably do a video game stream this week because I got requested to do so. So we'll do some Fallout 4 sometime this weekend. I don't know when, but we'll do some of it sometime this weekend. So come back and hang out for that. That's going to be a good time as well. Get a little bit of wind down here. Do some wargaming and practice for the inevitable Russian invasion coming up here when we all turn into ghouls and say, hey, Smoothskin. Otherwise, come back and join on Monday for more contemporary, more news headlines on Monday night for KTZed Redemption, where we're going to be talking almost exclusively probably about the Ukraine once again, among other things as well. I am going to try to hold that down away from doing that entirely all Ukraine all the fucking time. So don't worry about that. Or Tuesday, for more Contemporary. And Tuesday night will be the State of the Union. And yes, I am going to stream the State of the Union address on Tuesday night. We're going to sit there and we're going to watch that because I want to be there. I want to be sitting there and watching when the houseplant-in-chief shits his pants on stage after his medicine fails. So come back out here. Join us for that. Some discussion still going on as to who the co-host is going to be. Obviously, like I said, KTZed gets first dibs because this is half her channel as well. Otherwise, come back and join us the next time, whenever you get here, and we will see you then. And until then, I am Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary.